Hey people's YouTube! Today we're going to be remaking another fairy tale in Minecraft. And without further ado, today's fairy tale is going to be Thumbelina. Yay! Once upon a time, there was a woman who was so desperate to have a teeny little daughter that she went to a witch and bought some seeds. Anyways, after putting them in front of the window, one day the seeds turned into a very teeny little girl! Yay! Anyways, the girl was so teeny weeny weeny that the lady decided to name her Thumbelina, for she was no bigger than your thumb. The girl was very, very happy and just kind of sat in front of the window having a great time, because she loved the flowers and the lake and the breeze and her mother. It was a very nice life. However, one night, as Thumbelina happily slept right in front of the window, a ginormous toad happened to come up next to the window and see Thumbelina. And now see, Thumbelina was a very, very pretty, very, very small child, so the toad was all like, this is a wife, and just stole Thumbelina. The frog took Thumbelina back to her home, where she dumped her on a lily pad, where Thumbelina could not get away because she did not know how to swim. Then she got her son, a frog, and said, this is to be your wife, and the frog, because he was quite dumb, just said croak. Anyways, then the mom frog came over to Thumbelina and was all like, hello, just so you know, this is your husband now. And she was all like, oh no, I don't want to marry a frog, because, in all honesty, who would? And she sat there crying, oh so sad, because it's a frog that only knows how to say croak. Not a very good, future spouse. The next day, Thumbelina sat crying on her lily pad because she was ever so sad because she was gonna have to marry a frog. Anyways, the fish nearby heard her sobbing and shooed away at the lily pad until it went floating away down the river. Yay! Thumbelina is free! Thumbelina continued to float down the river until she found a very yellow and brown butterfly and tied it to her lily pad. And then she was cruising along. Ha-ha! Then a mayfly came buzzing past her lily pad, and she hopped on the mayfly and flew away on its back, just leaving the poor butterfly tied to a lily pad for the rest of eternity. No one cares about the butterfly. The mayfly took Thumbelina back to their house, where they were ever so happy to just hang around with Thumbelina because they thought Thumbelina was pretty cool. However, all the other mayflies were all like, oh my goodness gracious, they look like a human! They look like a human! You must get rid of them, they so ugly! And the mayfly, even though he liked Thumbelina the way she was all like, okay then, begone. And so the mayfly ditched Thumbelina on a wheat field, just as winter was falling. And even though the snow was so small, it was still so huge to Thumbelina, it was as if huge shovelfuls of snow were getting dumped on her as it snowed. Anyway, she was so dreadfully cold that as she wandered around the empty field, she was so happy when she found a mouse! And their burrow. And the mouse was all like, well, hello there. And Thumbelina was like, hello, you don't think I could possibly stay with you, could I? It's so cold. And the mouse was, of course, like, oh, of course. However, one condition. You've got to keep me company and clean for me. And Thumbelina was like, of course, of course. And so Thumbelina and the mouse lived quite happily together for a majority of the winter. However, soon, the field mouse introduced her to the mole. And she was all like, oh my goodness gracious, look at this mole. He is so rich. He is so handsome. You should marry this mole. And Thumbelina was like, gasp, first a frog, now a mole, gasp. However, the mole had become quite fond of Thumbelina and invited her down the tunnel he had recently made between her house and his. And so, as they strolled down the tunnel, he just said, oh yeah, by the way, there's just like a dead bird inside of my house, don't worry about that, it's just because of the winter. And, you know, that's just a normal thing, so they just like keep strolling along. and Thumbelina sneaks away to go see the dead bird. And she sees the dead bird and she's all like, oh dear, the poor thing. And the mole and the mouse are all just like, oh, the birds are so useless. They just twitter and tweet, so useless. But while they were gone, Thumbelina looked at the bird and was all like, I'm so sorry, you poor swallow. And while they weren't looking, she made a blanket to cover up the dead bird, because that's gonna do a lot. However, lo and behold, the bird came back to life! Yay! You just gotta love fairy tales. Because apparently the bird just hadn't been dead, just extremely frozen, and a single blanket managed to bring it back to life. You just gotta love fairy tales. So the following spring, when the swallow emerged from the mouse hole, and Thumbelina alongside it, the swallow was all like, would you like to leave with me? Then you wouldn't have to marry the mole. However, Thumbelina thought about the mouse, and how sad they would be without her. And she said, sorry mate, but you go on ahead. So, the swallow flew away, and left Thumbelina alone. However, during the next winter, when Thumbelina was chilling out with the mouse and the mole was all like, we're gonna get married. And Thumbelina was like, what? And the mouse was all like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And everyone was like, yay, except for Thumbelina, who was like, what? Because excuse me, princess, when did this happen? Anyways, the date was set for the following fall, and Thumbelina was to spend the entirety of that winter and next summer just weaving stuff, because apparently when you get married, you need a lot of clothing? Okay. So, on the day before her marriage, Thumbelina sat out in the field once again, looking at the sky and the trees and the lake, and asking them, please, 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 tell the swallow that he was cool, for I will never see him again. As the mole wants me to live underground for the rest of my life, I will never see anyone ever again. Yay! However, lo and behold, the swallow appeared! Yay! And then Thumbelina was all like, oh my goodness gracious, you appeared. And the swallow was like, of course I did, I heard you call. And she's all like, what you doing? And he's all like, I am gonna fly off to the warmer countries for winter. Would you like to come along this time? And Thumbelina was like, yes, yes, please take me away from here. And so, lo and behold, she got on the swallow's back and they flew away into happiness. And so the swallow let Thumbelina off at this little patch of flowers. And she was so happy because flowers, yay, I love flowers. And she was just strolling among the flowers when she saw, gasp, other tiny people. However, these tiny people, they had wings, and they were all like, hello there, because they were spirits of the flowers, so basically fairies. And fairies are joyful and happy, yay, 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 yay. However, then, the king of the fairy spirit flower things came over and was all like, why, hello there, I have never seen someone as beautiful as you, and immediately proposed to her on the spot, and she accepted as per fairy tale norm. Yay! Then they happily took a dead fly's wings and sewed them onto her back so she could flit around the flowers for the rest of eternity. Oh, the ending was going so good right up until that point. I mean, random marriages without any sort of knowledge beforehand, yeah, sure, whatever. But sewing dead things onto people's backs, you know what? Let's just move on. Let's just move on. Well, that is the story of Thumbelina. Hope you have a great day. You know, actually though, I was wondering though, just thinking, whatever happened to the mother? I mean, they literally went to a witch to get seeds, so that they could have a kid. Whatever happened to them? They're just somewhere. Just wondering, where did my kid go? And one teeny little thing I forgot to add, once Thumbelina gets married, her husband is all like, yeah, your name is stupid, your name is Maya now. Yay! I love fairy tales! Okay, for real this time though. Have a great day.